And have you done this before?
No.
Oh.
Take note.
I thought this was something that you've done before.
No.
Oh, we're newbies
We're
together.
doing this together. Well, it was nice to meet you 10-15 minutes ago.
Yes. Yeah, so what do? You Kava, tell me about it.
Well, Kava is it's a root that's grown in the South Pacific, in the Melanesian and Polynesian islands.
Okay.
And I've been in the Kava world for about a decade now. So, professionally, I've done a lot of things in the past, like software and technology. But I've always had a soft spot for Kava, because when I was in some rough patches in life, I was looking for something to help me out with those rough patches, and I found Kava. And then ever since, I've been kind of intertwined in the community, and which might sound crazy because, in the U.S., you've never heard of Kava, so the fact that there's a Kava community kind of sounds crazy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
everything has a community.
it does. That's true.
Yeah.
But Kava is really popular in the South Pacific. So it's a root that's grown in the South Pacific as like a communal thing that people can use to relax and hang out with each other.
Like people hang out, like get around a fire and like
If-
sip Kava together, or what?
If you got a fire, yeah.
So like, how do you use it? Like, what do you?
Yeah. So what it is it's generally sold as like a dried powder, right?
Okay.
And so the dried powder is then taken and, or really, even going back a little bit, right? They take the roots of this plant, right? And they take the roots and they chop it up and they dry the roots and then they pound the roots, and then those roots are then put into like a strainer, and you mix it with water, and as you mix it up, all of the little sediment, bits float down into the resulting drink. And so you mix it up and you drink it out of a coconut shell. And so whenever people talk about like drinking kava, they'll drink a shell of kava, right? So like a serving is a shell of kava.
Okay.
It's been used for thousands of years as like, are you going to fight with your neighbor, right? You want to go make amends with him? Do you want to go, is like a political deal that you're going to go do, or a business deal? You want to be friends with a neighboring village? You want to go marry someone's daughter? Bring them a bunch of kava, right? And hang out with them and talk to them. And so it really helps people to connect and relax. And so that way, a lot of times people will use kava as a way to kind of take down those barriers that might be there before from past arguments or disputes, and it just helps people relax.
Would you say like it's something that you would more use on like as needed basis, or is it a preventative, like you get up, it's just part of like your multivitamin routine? How would you use it? Like,
that's a really good question.
Yeah.
So personally, I don't use it as a preventative, right? I use it just as a if I've had a difficult day that day, I'll drink it at night because it helps you relax, and it also is a bit of a sedative, so it helps you sleep.
Okay.
A lot of people, in fact, they won't even necessarily feel it necessarily, but then they'll say, oh, I had a really good night's sleep.
And then they start kind of connecting the dots of, oh, that was kava that might have made me have a good night's sleep.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
So for you, I don't know kind of what your background is, but I think you're kind of a gym goer, yeah?
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, I really enjoy the gym. I'm an avid CrossFitter. I am a mother of 7, so when you talk about having tranquility and peace and calm and being overwhelmed is a word that would be in my vocabulary, like at the very top. So something that could help me chill out as needed would be really, really cool. I enjoy physical activities that helps me get my frustrations out sometimes. I enjoy, really kind of taking care of my body. I enjoy taking things, I like taking things that would be beneficial, and that would help me calm me down, that are natural and not going to give me really crazy side effects or, that kind of thing. So I'm all up for that. But yeah, I'm looking for something that could be used every day that maybe hopefully wouldn't break the bank, and that could be applicable to any situation. And that isn't something that I'm gonna have to like tell my kids, like, don't, don't take, or because sometimes having things like that around can be challenging.
Yeah.
And then if they want some, like if it's something I could share,
Sure.
especially, I mean, if you got like bigger cups or bigger shells, like that would be wonderful. No, I'm just kidding. Like I'm all up for convenience too. Sometimes it's, hard to like, oh, let me go grab that I have at home and I got to mix this powder and, so if there's other products that could, be more easily readily available,
Sure.
So do you have like what's available for a busy mom that's in the car?
Yeah. So I have kids too.
Okay.
I've got 2 wonderful kids. And I don't have 7?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't have 7 kids.
Most people don't.
I don't. So I feel a fraction of your stress, right? Stress enough for me. So I can totally commiserate with some of the issues that come up with having a lot of kids run around. In fact, I was one of 6 growing up. So
you get it.
I was in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know about you, but my whole thought around basically anything I do, I always have this thought in the back of my head of, what if I can't take my kids to the hospital? Right? What if I took something that makes it impossible for me to take care of my kids? If there was an emergency, I need to be able to deal with it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to take something that's going to stop that from happening.
Right.
So that's why I really kind of fell in love with Kava, was because it didn't make me feel weird. It didn't put me in an altered state of mind. It didn't make me want to do terrible things to my life,
it just took the edge off.
It just took the edge off, right? I could still go to work. I could still be a good dad. I could be there for my kids at night. I could be there for my kids in the morning. I could, make sure to fulfill my obligations to my wife and to my, extended family. So it's something that's really been very beneficial for me.
Okay.
And so while I might take it at night using powder, like you said, that's not always an option, right? Sometimes it's during the day when you really need to go out and live your life and not take 20 minutes to.
Or maybe you're out somewhere and you don't, you might not have, the powder or whatever. Like, is there something like, sometimes you have like a tincture spray or something, I don't know. That would be.
Yeah. So we do have a couple products that would be beneficial in that regard. The first is we have some mints. These are Kava mints that are really, they're good for just very quick on the go. I wouldn't say they give the full experience, but they do help tone things down.
Okay.
Right?
Now, speaking of kids, like how safe is it to have in the household? Like what would happen if, my 13-year-old that's having a cow, like what would that happen if they got some of that? It's age appropriate, like?
Yeah, so it's nothing like alcohol. It's nothing like marijuana. It's nothing like that. And it's also regulated as a dietary supplement. So it's like the same as having vitamin C or vitamin D, vitamin B, right? So it's regulated in that way because it's safe. It's not something that's gonna really put you into a weird, state of mind. You're not going to do anything stupid on it. You're not going to say anything stupid. It just relaxes you, right? So, in fact, in Hawaii, there's a variety of kava called nene, and if you look back at the old Hawaiian documents, or stories, they talk about using nene to give to children to help them sleep. A lot of people will even use kava as like or there's been stories about having them make it into like a little bit of a paste and putting it on like teething gums of kids. So I'm not saying it's something that your kids should have, but I'm not saying that it's a bad thing.
Like if you had it sitting on the counter and I have very experimental boys,
Yeah.
So it's safe to have around, basically. It's non-toxic. It's not
right. It's not gonna do anything crazy.
No, you can't like overdose on it or
no.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no. You can have as much kava as you want, but chances are you're not going to want to. Right? Kava will tell you, you don't want any more. I'm gonna actually open one of these things up because we really should show you what they look like and even what they smell like. Now these are cinnamon, right? So they're gonna be. Do you like cinnamon?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. These are very cinnamony.
Okay.
Feel free to try one if you want. If you don't,
I'm gonna
that's
try
fine
one.
too. So these are, like I said, very cinnamony. I'll have one with you. So it's gonna start. It's gonna be very cinnamony, but the kava flavor will start to come through.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna feel a little bit of numbness in your mouth and in your throat.
Oh.
Do you feel it numb already in your tongue? Okay.
Like, are you supposed to not chew them?
You can chew them, you can suck on them, you can do whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Now, kava is absorbed through the mucosal membranes of your mouth.
So it's better to keep it in your mouth as long as possible then?
Generally,
Okay.
yeah. Some people don't. That's okay. You know.
Would your stomach acid kind of eat it up more? Like if you're not going to get as much benefit out of it as like if you...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you definitely want to keep it sort of in your mouth.
So whenever you are drinking it, like with the powder and stuff, do you kind of like keep it in your mouth a little bit, or like is it still like?
Nah.
Is it going to be fine being ingested that way, like just like the mints more?
Yeah.
Okay.
The mints you generally want to keep in your mouth, or.
Now I feel the numbness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of.
If I start hanging my tongue out, you'll tell me, right? I'm just kidding.
Yes, I will. I will do that.
That's not bad.
Yeah, it's not terrible, right?
No, it's doable.
And so that like numbing feeling, it's actually kavain, which is one of those 6 kava lactones. And kavain is primarily responsible for the euphoria that people experience. So this is going to be a very like toned down version of what an actual shell of kava would feel like.
Okay.
So, and you might feel like just a little bit, it won't be super intense, right? But that's the point of these, right?
Right.
If you're really at a high level of...
You pop 5 of them.
I'm just kidding. If you want. it's up to you. I'm going to sell you these and you can do what you want.
I don't know if my mouth could handle more than one. That's like pretty...
There's a lot.
There's a lot going on with that little teeny tiny mint.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
So the mints are kind of cool, right? Because if you're in an airport, on the bus, doing your thing,
yeah,
the mints are a good option. Another, and these are cinnamon, but we also have orange flavored ones as well.
Oh, okay.
So pretty cool. And then we also have some of these, which are like these concentrates. So all of these products, right? The mints, the concentrates, some other things that are going to be coming out pretty soon here. They're all made using kava extract.
Okay.
So it's not the same as kava, right? It's kind of like saying, is a caffeine pill coffee? Well, no, of course not. It might be extracted from coffee, but it's not coffee, right?
Right.
So kava extracts, they provide a part of that feeling, a part of that appeal, but it's not going to have the full experience that you would traditionally have. Right?
Okay, as drinking just a shell full of kava.
Exactly. Yeah.
Daily or... Okay.
Yeah. But what's cool about these, though, is that they do offer like a very close version, right? And they taste pretty good, right? So if you have, a little bit of this, maybe if you're at a party, you don't want to drink alcohol, this is a great option. Because it does kind of help you relax, just kind of, helps it's a little bit of a social lubricant, but it's not going to make you say anything stupid in front of your boss.
Oh,
right?
That's great.
Or your kids.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we also have like these travel size versions.
Oh, okay, that's cute.
So when I'm on the plane, I'll take a couple of those.
So how long would it last? Like if you drink what is it called again?
A shell?
A shell, yeah. So a shell of kava, how long does that last you?
So normally what you're going to do is you're going to have like generally between 4 and 6 shells of kava in a night. Some people will do less, some people will dilute it a lot more. In fact, if you go to like Vanuatu, they'll drink it really, really concentrated. So very thick kava compared to other places. And so, they'll drink less, fewer shells, but they will have still a lot of kava just because there's so much in it.
Okay.
Whereas if you go to Fiji, it'll be way watered down. And the difference is in styles, right? So in Vanuatu, they'll have it, at night or in the afternoon. But in Fiji, they'll drink it all day.
Okay.
All day, all night.
So their philosophy, kind of like methods are different. Like,
yeah.
They want more concentrated at nighttime, help you sleep, relax. And then this one, a little watered down, so you can kind of take it all day long to where you're not
Exactly.
just
Yeah.
sleepy.
Exactly.
All day.
And a lot of people I know, they'll drink it like a Fijian will at work, right? So, if you're sitting in a call center and you have people yelling at you all day long, you don't want to take a really strong pharmaceutical. You don't really want to, you don't want to be boozing on the job. So a little bit of kava will help just take the edge off, right?
Okay.
Just bring it down just a little bit, right? And so back to your question about how long does it actually take, or how long does it last for? It kind of just depends on how long you're drinking it for, right? So like a Fijian, because they drink more of it in a longer period of time, it kind of lasts a little longer, right? In Vanuatu, with the more kind of concentrated shells of kava, it's going to hit you stronger and faster. It just won't last as long, right?
Okay.
So I would say, in general, maybe 2 or 3 hours of,
Pretty smooth.
Yeah. And so most people on the islands, they'll do it in like the afternoon or the evening. Personally, I have kava in the evening, maybe 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And then that way, a couple hours later, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock rolls around.
Ready to go to bed.
Time to hit the hay. Yeah.
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 Okay. Now, where it comes from, how do they manufacture it? Like, how do they, so you say they pounded it. Do they have like machines? I mean, do they actually have like people? I don't know. Like, what do they do there? Like, how do they get it from where it grows to
So
in your shell?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a long, complicated process. Actually, it's not that complicated. It's not complicated.
No?
No. It's just that there's different like styles. Again, it's always a style thing,
Yeah.
right? Just like how, you might drink kava differently than I would. Same thing over there with preparing or processing it. Most places, they'll drink it fresh. So you'll take the actual plant itself before it's dried, and they'll take those roots and they'll wash the roots and they'll peel the outside bark. You have, on a kava plant, I wish I had one here to show you.
Yeah.
But on the kava plant, you have these nodes that grow up, and then the leaves, and you take those nodes and those stems, right, and you cut those off. So you can go 1 or 2 up and you cut it, and then you can actually take those and propagate new kava fields, right?
From the cuttings?
Yeah, from the cuttings.
Okay.
In fact, that's the only way you can grow kava. There's no seeds, and it has been grown for thousands of years that way.
Wow.
So it's kind of like the original like GMO, right?
Right.
They found a kava that helped them and that they liked, and so they propagated that one. And as you see on the islands, as it kind of goes from Vanuatu through Fiji and Tonga and Samoa and the Marquesas and the Marshalls and the Hawaiian Islands, you see the DNA evolve. And so in Vanuatu, you'll have a very sedative kava, and the further down you go up to Hawaii, the Hawaiian cultivars are very euphoric. Okay. So they're less sedative than ones down in Vanuatu. So anyways, that was a side tangent.
Oh, I loved it, yeah.
It's super kind of cool stuff
Yeah,
though, right?
yeah.
And it was a canoe plant, right? So these plants were sacred and special, and still are. They're sacred and special to these people. Generally, you're going to farm kava for 5 years, 7 years, and so it takes a long time for it to actually,
develop,
mature.
Okay.
Yeah, and you. So after you farmed it up and you chop off those stems, you peel off the bark on the bottommost stems, the basal stems, and the stump, the rhizome of the plant, as well as these lateral roots that grow out. And so the lateral roots, they're the strongest parts of the plant. So they'll have the major ingredient in it is called a kavalactone. So there's 6 major kavalactones in the plant, and they are largely responsible for how you feel.
Okay.
Certain ones make you more euphoric, certain ones are more sedative, and different varieties of the plant will give you those different concentrations of the kavalactones will give you different effects. So now that you've farmed your kava and you've waited 5 to 7 years and you've peeled your roots and you've harvested and cleaned off all the dirt, if you're drinking it fresh, you'll then take those and you'll chop it up and you'll grind it and then you'll strain it, right? So, and then the resulting liquid that you strain with some water, that will be what you drink. In other places, like in Fiji, most of the time they drink dried kava, and which is what we have here because it's kind of hard to grow kava in Arizona.
Okay.
In fact, dare say impossible. I have one in my bathroom and it's not doing so well. My wife, I'm not sure she's a huge fan of it there, but it's there.
Right.
Okay?
Does it need a lot of humidity?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they always grow best with a ton of water, right? Especially in the early years. So, anyways, yeah. So when you have this, the roots that you now need to dry, you're going to take these roots, you're going to chop them up because if you leave them whole, they're too big to dry out. And if you think about a lot of the countries where this is being done, they often don't have stable electricity, or the equipment to have a big dehydrator for all of this stuff, and so they'll dry it out in the sun.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you can imagine you're in a very rainy environment and you need to dry it out in the sun. It's a process.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of we're gonna get a big tarp. We got this big, sort of area where we're gonna dry these roots, and they'll put it out there and they'll look up at the sky and hope it doesn't rain. Right. And if they see clouds in the distance, they wrap up all the tarps and they bring it inside, and then they wait a day for it to dry out again, and they bring it back out and dry it again.
Oh my God.
And then they have these chunks that are finally dry, and they have these pounding machines, or traditionally they would just have a big, there's a couple ways of doing it. A lot of times they would have a kid take the root, and this is normally when it's fresh, and they would chew on the root, masticated kava, and the saliva would help it sort of break down, and they would spit it out, and they'd put it into some hibiscus leaves or bark, hibiscus bark, and then they would mix that and strain it out, and that's what they would drink. With dried kava, though, you don't have to do that.
Sounds like a process.
Yeah, with dried kava, they would pound it with a big steel, bar in a big wooden sort of vessel. These days, there's electrical ones that are big and they're really loud and they'll pierce your ears with just the sound alone, right? But they pound the kava until it's powdered, and that's what we get.